Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. In 2019, Audemars Piguet discontinued the prior Jules Audemars dress watch line and launched the Code 11.59 collection. Everyone seemed to love the complications, the perpetual calendar with its aventurine dial, enamel dials on the minute repeater, and the tourbillon. The problem, the standard self-winding, the automatic, and the chronograph looked cheaper than they were because of expensive but flat, monotone lacquered dials. Well, almost immediately, AP set up triage to do whatever was necessary to make the dials look as expensive and refined as the rest of the watch. And the prototype of the rebooted Code 11.59 actually bowed before the end of the debut year for the collection, which was 2019, when this 99-piece white gold Bolshoi Theater Special Edition launched. So this, in a lot of ways, prototyped the changes that would be made to vastly improve the second-year Code 11.59 series. The difference here, and you will see that I recently shot a Code 11.59 very similar to this, that and all of the 2020 and subsequent dials on the self-winding were lacquer, whereas this is smoked enamel, much more expensive, artisanal, and challenging to fabricate. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's quickly explain what this Bolshoi Theater business is about. So you can see the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow with what might be AP's coolest ever handcrafted and engraved rotor. That is the home to Moscow's opera and ballet, and I realize we are in a difficult stretch regarding East-West relations, but Russia does have some redeeming qualities, and the arts tend to be among them. So we celebrate the Bolshoi Theater here with this watch, nothing more. The timepiece is sized like a conventional self-winding 11.59, so 41 millimeters in diameter, 11.1 thick, 49.8 from lug tip to lug tip with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. I would say that the only thing that prevents the Code from working well on every wrist as a dress watch is that it is large. You could see at almost 50 millimeters lug to lug, it is not thick, but it is broad. So if you've got a wrist my size or larger, let's say 16 centimeters circumference, maybe 15 if your wrist is very flat across the top, then you can wear this. If your wrist is smaller, then you want to go look at the older Jules Audemars sub 40 millimeters. So let's say 15 centimeters circumference and up, you can wear this well. Although the case flank is sheer and it looks thicker than it is, rest assured it will slide underneath just about any cuff, especially jackets. It's weighty. In white gold with a substantial size, you really do feel where the money went. And just like every other Code 11.59, as soon as you get past the internet photos that look like this, the mugshot, you start to realize just how nuanced this case is and how much money was spent on this watch. The strap is a high-grade piece. You could see it is very dark blue, medium rectangular scale alligator leather, and it's got a little bit of bolstering or stuffing to add volume to it. We've got a monotone stitch, a folded edge, and then gator on both sides. Gator on both sides is something you see more and more on the best brands. It started with independents like Journe and Debetune. Now you see it on AP, you see it on Vacheron, Louis Elise Chopard. The time has come because with small round scale gator on the bottom, the strap will last much longer than if it were lined with calfskin. So this is great to have on a watch that's definitely worth the outlay. A funny quirk of this watch. First, you can see that the pin buckle was made for this model. Taking a look, there's faceting. There's a break between polish and satin. On the underside, you can see the satin continues. But then it's got this little hexagonal screw that fixes it by bar to the strap. So you have screw and bar fixture on both sides, very secure. I love to see that. That's the way an expensive watch should be made. It takes a little bit more time and money to make it this way, but so worth it. I've seen spring bars fail without warning. So this is much more reassuring. Now, this is where things get a little bit weird, and I mentioned that it was quirky. So taking a look at this buckle, you can see self-evidently this is gray gold. This is the type of white gold that is not rhodium plated and is white all the way through, whereas AP loves to rhodium plate its white gold watches. So you can see self-evidently that this is a much whiter white gold than the buckle. you can see the warmth of this right here, and then the brightness of this, which is like platinum. AP likes that look, and frankly, I think it looks awesome. I just think it's funny to see the buckle distinct from the case, and these things came mated together from the factory. Now, all right, besides that, there's a lot to love here. First, these lugs. You could see the little hexagonal screw. That's a nod to the screws. They're actually bolts on the bezel of the Royal Oak. There's another Royal Oak sideways nod here with a rounded octagonal midcase, and you can see how that midcase swells at the center and then tapers at the end. We've got these lovely open-airy flying buttress-like lugs that have beautiful micro beveling inside them, and then we have the overlap of the bezel and the case back. But if you look really carefully, and I mean really carefully, it's not the easiest thing to see. Take a look right there. Look at the bottom of the lug. The bottom of the lug is not attached to the case. It joins the watch at the bezel and solely at the bezel. We have a crown with satin and polish, and we have a bezel that's barely there, really. Looking at it from the front, you almost cannot see the bezel, but it's polished on its lip, and then there's a dramatically sort of dihedral contoured crystal. Look at that refraction pattern. The shape of this crystal is unlike anything else in the watchmaking world. It's got a little dip to it, and you can see that well from this angle. And that's just part of the detail and the expense of building a Code 1159 that I feel like people don't get when they just look at a picture like this. That said, this is the most attractive Code 1159 to behold from the front alone. It has a lacquered Rehaut outboard, which is this black ring, gloss lacquered, and then the center dial is fired enamel. So layers, probably 20 of them, of colored enamel and clear enamel, fired at 800 degrees in a kiln every step of the way. The enamel, the vitreous paint, can run. The enamel disc can crack or explode in the oven. It's a very artisanal craft and extremely difficult to achieve a dark colored enamel that doesn't show all the ripples and ridges of conventional enamel. That's why many companies only give you white enamel, because it's a very honest material that betrays every flaw, and there's none of that here. Also, it is a gradient fade, which is unusual and difficult to do. Laborious, it would have added a lot of steps to the process. The quarter Arabic numerals, the indices, and the hands are all white gold. They will never oxidize or tarnish. One way you can tell from the front that this is the Bolshoi Theater model and not the subsequent lacquer dial model that looks exactly like it is the date disc. For 2020, they realized one of the oversights was that the date disc didn't actually match the font of the other numerals on the dial. So, for example, this 6 is this 6, this 3 right here is also this 3, but that 3 is not that 3 or that 3. So take a look at the date disc if you ever need to ID one of these without being able to see the case back. If the numerals on the disc are a different font than the rest of the dial, you're looking at the Bolshoi. So stop seconds just like that. There's also a quick set date that allows you to rapidly cycle the date should you wish to do so. And again, you can see that 6 and that 6 are not the same. You can also see that there's a lovely vaulted curvature to the indices as well as the hands that gets lost in that shot. Turn it all over. Okay, that rotor, oh my God. So we've got a little bit of Cyrillic text paying tribute to the Bolshoi Theater. And my goodness, look at this handcrafted rotor. This is probably the most elaborately handcrafted part of any Code 1159 at any price. Yes, including the repeaters, the tourbillon, the perpetual calendar. Look how it's been skeletonized and interior beveled. Look how intricate the details of these cherubs are. Absolutely beautiful. 1 interior angle, 2 interior angle, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's unbelievable the degree of attention to detail and hand finishing that went into this rotor. That's before you get to the movement. Now, this is a movement that debuted in 2019 on the Code 1159, and it is the 4302. So it's a new generation automatic, replacing the older 3120. It's bigger than the 3120. That was about 26 millimeters. This is 32, so it fills the case back. Old movement had 60 hours power reserve. This has 70. Old movement was 3 hertz, higher beat rate here, better stability against shock, 4 hertz. We have a full dual anchored balance bridge for shock resistance, and for both shock resistance and precise adjustment, we have a free-sprung Gyromax style balance with all the timing adjustments used in conjunction with those eccentric masses on the rim of the balance to set the timing. You can also see solarization at the center of the bearing, all screw heads black polished, and you can see ceramic bearings for smooth, low-maintenance, efficient winding. It's a good-looking movement. It is a combination of hand finishing and machine finishing, so let's be honest about that. This 32 jewel movement, for example, does feature machine-finished bevels on the bridges, although not on the rotor. So it is appropriate to the price and the stature of AP, but we're not going to compare this to, say, something like a Grunefeld Principia 1941 automatic. You buy this watch for the rotor, for the rarity, and for that 2-die-4 combination of case and dial. So, if you're interested, 30 meters water resistant, don't take it swimming, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.